Now you may be asking, what were the tactics? And it's like, we know, we've heard of the battles, we've heard of what life was like, but what were the battles like? Well, I'll tell you right now. First of all, you have where you went over the top into the no man's land and you attacked the enemy trenches. First of all, for several days and nights preceding it, you'd fire artillery shells into it, hopefully knocking out enemy emplacements and barbed wire. It didn't work very much. Then you'd send the British, the soldiers would scramble up over the side and charge with their bayonets and their guns. And if they were lucky, they'd have grenades and they'd throw the grenades into the trench to knock them out. Then they'd start hitting people with the butts of their guns and something called trench knives. Trench knives were long, like daggers that they carried. The French invented them. The Germans had, and you'd be fought back with German stick grenades and clubs. The Germans had spiked metal clubs. And you'd be using the butt of your gun, your bayonet, you'd be shooting down into the trenches. And then in the 16 or 17, the British invented the tank, like a big caterpillar treads with a little cabin. It had 2 huge guns and 4 machine gun holes. And what they do is they just crawl over. Machine gun fire couldn't hurt it, only shells could. And that took a couple of them. They'd go down into the trenches and the men would the men would be behind them. It would act like a shield. And the airplanes would drop bombs and what they call strafing the enemy with bullets. This did a lot of damage. The trenches were not straight lines as you imagine. They were zigzag like this. Because if it was straight, what's going to happen? Alright. Say you're in a British trench. Germans charge. You can't kill them. They get past the barbed wire. This one guy got the machine gun. There's this machine gun keep. He gets down. He points it at one direction of the trench. He shoots all the way down the length of the trench, killing and wounding men. But if it's zigzag, he has to shoot. Then he has to move, then he has to shoot, and hopefully you can snipe him down. Snipers? What are snipers? The snipers, what would they do is, during the night, or sometimes even the dark hours of the day, say cloudy days, 1 or 2 people would come up with rifles or pistols, and they'd sneak up to the trenches, they'd point down, shoot them. So at night time, they posted sentries on the trenches. They'd have a little platform where they put a sentry up there with a machine gun, permanent emplacement machine gun, and they keep watch. Sometimes in the pouring rain. And this was it was very liable to get you a cold. Now, we've listened about that. Now there's another thing I want to talk about. It's called, it's not very pretty. It's, it's things that they did back in the cities. You couldn't buy German soldiers in Britain. You couldn't buy German toy soldiers. You couldn't listen to music by Mozart or Beethoven. No, they were German, Austrian. No, you couldn't play those things. And you couldn't, light 3 cigarettes with 1 match. Because you light it once. Because there might be snipers. The saying was, if you light it once, he'll catch his eye. Light it 2 times, the second time, he'll aim. Light it 3 times, the 3rd time, he shoots. another common rule, another thing that the officers would pass down to their soldiers was this. In warfare, you can be in one of two positions. One is that you are safe. If you're safe, the second is you are not safe. If you're safe, don't worry. If you're not safe, then you can be in one of two circumstances. You can either be wounded or not wounded. If you're not wounded, don't worry. If you're wounded, then you should worry if you are one of two things. If you are fatally wounded, then you shouldn't worry. But if you are not fatally wounded, then you shouldn't worry. If you are fatally wounded, then you can be one of two things. Dead or not dead. If you're not dead, don't worry. If you're dead, you can't worry. Now this may seem like a bunch of rubbish and hogwash and tongue twisters, but it was to cheer up the troops. Very cheery. Think about all the things that you can die by. In 1917, things started to cool down or heat up. Yeah, you can't really decide if it cooled down or heated up. They started, for instance, Russia and Italy have now dropped out of the war. Austria-Hungary can't do anything. Bulgaria quits. He quits the Central Powers. He declares himself neutral. The Americans start to join the war. How did the Americans join the war? Why? Well, you might want to watch the next section for that. Bye.